Hello lovely people, how are you? I hope you're well. Yay, back in the garden. Not for very long. This is a mad harum-scarum quick dash down here, which is why I'm quite warm. What is the temperature? Oh, it's 27 in the shed, that's about 84 Fahrenheit. So, I wasn't planning to come to the garden at all today, but then I remembered there's something in my shed that I desperately had to collect today, because without picking it up I can't do a couple of things which are really pressing that I need to do at home. So I thought, right, okay, I will literally, I've still got really itchy eyes, I will literally sprint, well not sprint, I've never been a sprinter, long distance girl, long haul, I'm in for the long haul, no short bursts, but you know what I mean. Leg it down here, grab my thing, leg it back home. It's actually some packaging material that a fellow plotter passed on to me, and I need it for some parcels which really need to go out. So I thought, right, just go to the plot, pick it up. And then, as you'll have seen from yesterday's video, I've been reading that lovely book, From Here You Can't See Paris. And, you know, just page after page, mentions of Coco de Paimpol. So because I've come today, I thought, you know what, let's have a grab of any that are still at their wet stage. I don't want to say green, because you don't harvest them when the pods are green. What I'll do is I'll go and show you the beds in a second, show you what I'm talking about, then we'll come back and I'm going to go through the various stages and the ideal moment for harvesting. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second. I'd forgotten, I've come to the shed now, and can you see this? Look, it's a little knitted sort of shopping / produce bag. How cute is that? What a lovely present. So you've heard me on a number of occasions, I'm sure, talking about Catherine. She's got the plot. If you go all the way to the top of my plot, where the tea lily is, hop over the central path, that's her plot there. So her mum has been knitting and making these bags, so Catherine had her make one for me and one for Sheena. How lovely is that? See, I really do have the best neighbours, the best garden buddies, the best buddies full stop. So I'd left that in the shed last time I was down here, I can't remember why. I probably left it here with the thinking of, oh, when I'm next down I'll harvest and I'll use it. So the last time I was here, it was another quick visit. I've had a bit of a scan of the garden coming in just now, and also I've been thinking about it in the last few days that I've been at home. I really haven't spent a lot of time in the garden in the last month, apart from watering. We all know why, the heat, blah blah blah. So actually there are quite a few jobs outstanding. So my theme of this year has been, all the way along, it's been, oh, I'm a bit late with this, I'm a bit late with that. It's just how it is this year, it's just how it's been. So, having had a look, and also the think, I've made a bit of a list, and I'm really looking forward to it all. I'm really looking forward to getting stuck in, getting back on with garden jobs. At the moment, none of it is going to be too physical. Oh, something in my eye. Is it one of the... Rusty's here. Rusty, have you put something in my eye? Is it one of your bits of fur? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into all these jobs. I need to lift my onions. For goodness sakes, they normally come out in July. I mean, end of July. But yeah, they should have come out about 5 weeks ago. I'm not worried. I'm not going to worry about the timings of anything this year. I'm going with the flow still. What can you do? What can you do? So I did pop down very quickly the other day, and I now have, I know some of you following me on Facebook, so you will have seen this already, but for those who don't, I have, these are my little paper bags I use for harvesting and drying. I've got about 20 of these, if you can see, chock full of lavender. So this harvest, oh, the smell. This harvest was from Gary's plot, because he likes having lavender, he loves the bees in it, all the insects, but he doesn't use it. So when I bumped into him 10 or so days ago, he said, oh, do you want some of this lavender, because I'm going to prune it all off. I was like, yes please, thank you. So I spent a very happy, gosh, it was over 2 hours in the end, because I harvest everything by hand, really look after it. Yeah, so I spent a very happy 2.5 hours in his lavender bed harvesting. Mine still needs doing. I'll be doing that in the coming days, and I'm going to, as I mentioned in another previous video, I'll do a separate video as I'm harvesting, just talking a little bit about care, harvesting, drying, that sort of thing. So, I think we'll come back. It's a bit windy out there. I'm going to quickly show you the Coco de Paimpol beds so you can see what I'm talking about. Then we can come back in here and I'm going to show you with some various stages of beans the ideal moment for picking. Yeah, so come on, let's just go in the garden and have a look at these beds. Well, this is my main Coco de Paimpol bed. I can't remember how many... Oh, those flipping builders. I can't remember how many plants I put in, but it's got to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 10 in a row, 4. It's probably about 50 plants in there. But you can see really clearly what's happened. Normally at this time of year, I would expect them to look like, well, a bit greener than that. So if I show you, I mean, if you remember, I showed you a couple of weeks ago how I had loads of pods coming, all getting nice and fat and green. However, what's happened this year is this. They have dried super quickly. So, some of them might be big enough for seed saving. In some cases, they've actually dried before the beans have developed in the pods. So they'll be good for nothing apart from chopping up and composting. But what I sort of decided, reconciled myself to, I mean, look. Honestly, this looks like October in this bed. Yeah, it was apparent a couple of weeks ago that this was not going to be a good harvest. Definitely not a good harvest for eating. Not even a great harvest for seed saving. So, I reconciled myself to that. That's fine. I will get what I can. I was rather hoping coming down today that I would find a few that I can harvest for demi-sec. There might be a handful in there. I would like 1 bowl of them fresh this year, please. So that's one of the beds. Then along here is another bed. This was all my plugins. Remember, I oversowed just in case. I mean, there's nothing left of them. There's not a single leaf in there. These went over really quickly. But I think, again, if you look at sort of the fatness of that, at least some of these beans did develop before they got really dry. So, again, some seed saving. Good. Then, they are dotted all around the place, but mainly there was another coming this way. There's another little bed of them here next door to the celery, and I kept this bed really, really well watered. But again, look, I mean, you can hardly see them because pretty much all the foliage has gone. Look, it's like a ghost bed. The bed that was, honestly, I've never known a year like it. But, you know, like I was saying, trying to kind of think about what I have rather than what I haven't. You see, look, there's a carpel here that I could harvest to eat tonight. Yeah, just a couple. These aren't at the right stage for harvesting. I'll show you when we go back in the shed and get away from this building and wind noise. These aren't actually at the right stage for harvesting, but I'm loath to leave them even an extra couple of days, because I just think the way things have been, you see, like with this lot, I was thinking, oh, I'll harvest you in a couple of days. I came back, they're all dry. It's much the same with all of the beans. So if we just go back to the bean arches, thank goodness for the Jack Be Little giving me a bit of greenery. Yeah, so this row is all, oh, well, just first of all to say, I mean, the Coco Sophie, I've completely missed those. Hey, Rosie. Coco Rosie. Should we name a Coco after you? Should we have a little Coco Rosie? Gorgeous girl. Oh, she's so timid. Look. Never mind. Rosie, we're coming past. Please don't be frightened. Yeah, with the Gigantes, I was thinking the same. I'll come along and have them green. But again, missed the boat. So this is now seeds. Actually, Gigantes I will cook from dry. I'm going to talk about the cooking from dry and demi-sec in a second. But yeah, there's an area green one to be had. There's one. Oh, they're not exactly the fattest beans in there though. Not exactly the fattest. Little shield bog on there. So I'm going to talk about this a bit more in another video, but yeah, I need a big bean sorting day. So where it's obvious things have become seed savers, like this, they can just stay on the plant to dry. I'm not worried about those at the moment, unless we are threatened with a load of rain, then I'll grab them. If there are green ones I can pick to eat and freeze, all well and good. I do a big pick, but then I'm going to leave the plants in the ground, because there's a vague chance, a vague hope that they will flower again, and I might just get a second flush of flowers, beans, if we continue having these warm days that we're now getting. It's warm, not hot, but if we get some rain as well. We did have a massive dumping of rain 4 or 5 days ago, but it's all looking so dry again already. Okay, I'm just going to pop you all with me back in the shed. I'm going to talk about the harvesting and the cooking methods. That's better. A little bit more peaceful in here. I didn't realise it's quite gusty windy today, which is lovely and very refreshing, fresh. Gosh, it's humid too, but it does muck with the sound a bit. And then that roof extension, that loft extension. Oh, the other day I was saying to someone, I was like, I just would like one day that's quiet. You know, reading that book about the village in France, there is a huge part of me which thinks I'd love to live in the countryside, in a village. I would love the peace and quiet. But within a week I'd be bored out of my brains. I'm not a village girl, definitely a city girl, but yeah, it'd be nice just one day a week to not have noise. Anyway, so the gorgeous, the magnificent, the beautiful, the wonderful, the marvellous Coco de Paimpol. So any of you, oh sorry, just sat on the cat's tail. Any of you who have been watching my channel for a few years now will know just how much I'm in love with this bean. It was love at first bite and sight, because they're a pretty bean too. So they originally come from the town of Paimpol in Brittany, Normandy. Are they in Brittany or Normandy? They're from the north of France. They're pretty much directly south of me by a couple of 100 miles. So, thinking about where they are grown in France, it makes sense that they would grow well for me here too, in terms of climate. So, they're kind of warm but wet summers. We both have that maritime influence on our weather. We're both about the same distance from the sea. So it makes sense that they should grow well for me here. And they have in previous years. This year's a little bit anomalous. And it's around about now that the big harvests are done in France, in Paimpol. And in Paimpol and the surrounding villages, it's around about now that they have all the festivals. They actually have festivals to this little bean. So highly regarded is it. It is it. If you're going to that part of the world specifically to experience the festivals, check the dates ahead, because I think it's usually right around the end of August, beginning of September, but obviously it's going to be a movable feast. I'd love to go one day. Now, it is an AOC, that means an appellation origine contrôlée, I think, however it's pronounced. And what it means is it's specific to that area. It's like wines when they have that AOC. So you could be using the same grape, 100 miles up the road, exactly the same grape, but you can't call it the same wine because it's not from that area. Rather like champagne and Prosecco. Why would you drink Prosecco? Champagne has to be very specifically that region. And it's like in the UK we have cheddar cheese because it comes from cheddar. Melton Mowbray pies, it come from Melton Mowbray. I'm trying to think of other things. Anyway, you get the idea. So Coco de Paimpol is a specific bean to that specific town and cluster of villages. It is grown elsewhere in France. And I think last year when people were asking me about seed, and I had a few seed to give away, someone, I think it's Uprising Seeds in America, were selling basically Coco de Paimpol, but they can't call it that. What did they call it? Haricot something or other. Well, they would call it haricot because haricot is French for bean. Right, okay, it's a little bit of history of this bean. For those of you who don't know, I was given 8 seeds about 6 or 7 years ago from Gary. Gary had been growing it for a couple of years because his wife had been on a culinary holiday. You know, one of these holidays where you spend the morning at different markets buying ingredients and then the afternoon learning recipes, etc. She was there at the right time of year for the Coco de Paimpol, tried it while she was there, loved it, brought some home to see if Gary could grow some. He did. He gave me those 8 seeds. From those 8 seeds, the rest is history in my garden. Yay! Right, harvesting. Because it's really important to get it spot on to get the best from your bean. So when the pods develop, they are quite a dark lime green. This is not the dark lime green, this is a pale green, and you can see the beans are starting to fatten in the pod. They're a very fat round, they're almost round as a bean rather than that kind of kidney bean shape. So they start a dark lime green, they gradually fade to a sort of a yellow. So this one is fading. It's a bit hard to show you this year because they've all gone over so quickly, and you can hopefully see in there how much fatter. Let me show you the two side by side. Oh, actually they're not too bad, but can you see in this one, in the yellowy creamy one, the beans are even fatter. So this is normally the stage I want to harvest at, and can you see right on the tip it's just starting to speckle with a sort of a pinky purple. That is the moment, the perfect moment to harvest. So harvest them, shell them, as you say in the States, or as we say over here, pod them. The pods, chop them up, stick them back in the compost. We are after the bean. Precious bean, I'm going to open. Oh, God, these are a little bit elongated. They're normally much more round. Oh, just precious, precious, precious. So at this stage, normally I would freeze them. So I would do all my podding, divvy them into sort of about 500 gram portions, which is half a pound for those of you in old money, in my little half pound 500 gram containers, divvy them out, whack them in the freezer. I don't even blanch them, they just go straight into the freezer. Then when it comes time to eating them, I don't even worry about defrosting, which is why it's so handy as a bean rather than a dried bean. You don't have to plan. Straight out of the freezer, into the steamer for about 15 minutes. After about 10-12 minutes you could try one, have a little bite. They do retain their bite when they're cooked, but once you've bitten into it there should be a creaminess to it, and that's the treasured thing about these beans. They're so creamy. So maybe after 10-12 minutes try. I normally reckon on about 15 minutes. If you're having them on their own, as I quite often do, literally just a bowl of them, bit of olive oil, sometimes a little bit of garlic, sometimes a bit of lemon juice, but seriously, a bowl of these just with oil on, oh, gorgeous. So that's the ideal one. Let me just show you again. So it's creamy with the speckles just starting. Now this is where they've gone weird this year. Can you see how that's much more heavily streaked with the purple? So that normally means I've missed the harvest. But if you look, the beans aren't really very well developed in there at all. They've hardly fattened up. But at that stage, I would generally say these ones I would leave for seed saving. So I just leave it on the plant to dry and dry and dry and become that. So actually, I don't know if you can tell from this one, you can see the little streaks down here. This was still on its way to getting to maturity for me to pick to eat, and then boom, overnight it's gone dry. So that's a seed saver now. I was mentioning the other day, sorry, I know this is quite a lot of information, but this is stuff I get asked all the time. I was mentioning in that previous video yesterday that you can eat them from dry. It's just that the texture isn't so good. You don't get that gorgeous creaminess. However, if it means starving rather than, of course, eat them. So if that's the case, as I will do now with pretty much all of the ones that I just showed you in the garden, they're all just going to stay on the plants now, to dry on the plants. Harvest them dry, pod them, shell them, spread them out on a tray to make sure they've finished drying really, really thoroughly. You can always hear when a bean is dry, not by shaking it to your ear, but just the sound they make on the tray. They go from that kind of rubbery, soft sound to a much higher pitch kind of ting 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 sound. Once they're all totally dry, you can store them to eat them. Remember, when you're storing your beans dry, either for eating or for seed saving, get them so that they're absolutely bone dry. Then put them in a container. I just use preserving jars like my Kilner jars or jam jars, that sort of thing. Put them in jars, pop them in the freezer for 3 days. That's going to kill off any little bugs that there might be in there, because there is nothing more hideous than getting to about February or March the following year and looking at your beautiful jars of beans in the pantry to see all those little bugs hopping about inside as they're hatching. Ugh, hideous. Likewise, you don't want to open your seed packet and all these little flies fly out. So into the freezer for 3 days, out of the freezer after 3 days, but don't open the jar at that stage, because you don't want to suck in all the warm, moist air. It will be drawn into the jar. Let the jar come right back to room temperature, and then either decant the beans into a much bigger container if you've got a lot of that type of bean, or divvy them out into your seed jars, seed packets, whatever it is. And then if you do want to use them for cooking, I would suggest soak them overnight, and then you'll need to boil them for about probably a minimum of an hour in a pressure cooker. Sorry, I don't know the times because I don't do pressure cooking, but probably for about an hour. After an hour, I'd try one, just see if you want to give it a little bit longer, anywhere between an hour and a half. So all would not be lost. It just means you aren't going to get that really, really amazing experience from this gorgeous bean that I bang on about all the time, completely unashamedly. Yeah, you're not going to get the same experience from dried as you would from having it wet, frozen. Whoa, nearly threw it at you then. Frozen, demi-sec. These aren't going in the freezer, there's not enough. I'm going to do a little tiny harvest as much as I can so that I can have a bowl of them tonight. It will be my only bowl of fresh ones this year. But not to worry, because I did a little inventory of my freezers the other day and I've got, I think, about 10 portions left from last year in the freezer still. Because last year was a really, really good year. Really good year. So I will have some to enjoy over the winter, but I'm going to have this one bowl of fresh tonight and I'm going to take my time with it. I'm going to try not to scoff it in 2 seconds. Yeah, just mouthful, close my eyes, really get the taste of it, the texture of it, just absolute in the moment, slow food, slow eating, much enjoyment. Right, there we go, that's your Coco de Paimpol. In terms of if you want to buy seeds, there is, I'll try to remember to do a link. There is a French company who do them. I can't remember what their name is, but it's something like Ilse Garden or something. They do them. The website is in French, but you should be able to hopefully pick up the Coco de Paimpol. If any of you have a look, now listen, my French isn't great, but if any of you are having a look at that website, I don't know if they do an English translation, I don't know, but if you're looking and you're not sure and you want a bit of help, maybe if you take a screenshot of the bit you're stuck on and send it to me, I'll try and translate it for you. But I know quite a few friends who've used that site and have managed it in French, even though they don't have much French. You're looking for Coco de Paimpol, however many packets you want, press pay, and get them. And then, like I said, the Uprising seeds I think they're based in either America or Canada, can't remember which, but I'll try to remember to link those too. And hopefully, you never know, hang on a sec. One of the things I was hoping for this year was I could grow more than ever for seed saving in order for me to disseminate them amongst some of you. So we'll see how the seed saving harvest goes as opposed to the scoffing harvest. They're two different things. I need to be clearer about that sometimes, I think. There are 2 harvests for everything in my garden. One harvest, the main harvest, is eating, but there's always the seed saving harvest too, which is really important because otherwise no food next year. So we'll see how the seed harvest goes, and fingers crossed, I will have, a good amount spare so that we can do exactly like I did last, was it in the autumn or spring that I did it? I gave them away free via my shop website. The only thing was you pay postage. Simple as that. So I'm not going to sell them. They're being given away. First come, first serve. Please, 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 please. I'm just going to say now, I know loads of you are desperate to get some. I don't blame you. They are gorgeous. I don't want to create a feeding frenzy, but please don't anybody ask me now, today, if they can reserve some seeds for later on. 2 things. 1, I'm going to lose track of all that. It's a bit too much to manage. And 2, I don't know how the harvest is going to be. As I sort of mentioned when I was out in the garden, some of the pods that have dried already, the beans are so tiny in them, I'm not going to pass those on as seed to anyone because they're just not good enough. They're the kind that I am going to save as a dried bean to eat, despite it not being as good as wet. So they're all ready. So yes, please don't anyone ask if they can reserve some now, because I don't know how many, if any at all, I'll have for distributing amongst all of us. So let's just all keep our fingers crossed that there are plenty to go around. Right, I'm going to go and harvest. This was a very, very quickie visit today to get the packaging material. I need to go home and do my parcels. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to say cheerio to you all. I hope you're all having fun doing whatever you're up to. I hope you're getting some nice harvests despite this being a bit of a pickle of a year. I hope you're enjoying those things that you are getting, and I'm making some yummy meals, and I'm managing to have a little bit to store for the winter, hopefully. I'll be picking some more tomatoes today, which means more bottling at midnight. Yeah, it's hard work at the moment, but you know what? In another 4 or 5 weeks, it'll feel like it's winter. And we'll be glad that we did all this work now. So, get out into your gardens today and see what needs picking. Get it picked and preserved today before it's too late. Alright, my lovelies, I will see you all again very soon, I hope. But in the meantime, I'm going to go and play with my Coco de Paimpol. Bye for now.